Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today I'm going to give you my October 2021 movie recommendations. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. You can also find me over Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Movie Guy 365. Okay, in this video, I will be giving you my October 2021 movie recommendations. Now, if you are a viewer of the channel, you know I typically focus on reviews of 4K discs and where I talk a lot about the picture and audio aspects. But I don't often talk about the movies themselves. I give you a little blurb at the beginning, but I just want to talk about what I watch personally in my off time. You know, because I do a lot of viewing of reviews for the channel, of course, but every once in a while I do want to watch something just for fun. And I thought for October 2021, I would gear more a little towards the horror, thriller, Halloween type stuff, and stuff that I'm just enjoying in this particular month. So let's not waste any time, let's dive right in. My first one is a personal favorite of mine, and it's a good old school, I wouldn't call it a horror film, but it's definitely a thriller. It's essentially a ghost story with a family political, thriller behind it. And that is George C. Scott in The Changeling, which desperately needs a restoration. Get on that, whoever owns the rights. But yeah, the Blu Ray edition of The Changeling, George C. Scott stars as our main protagonist. And this one has a good haunted house vibe, but I would say more or less it kind of stays a little bit grounded. His character has a personal tragedy and he's kind of trying to focus in on work, and he comes upon this house and stuff starts happening and gets wrapped up in like a political intrigue. It's kind of cool, honestly. I go back to this one every few years. It's shot very well. I think it's something that not a whole lot of people know about it, but those who have seen it, I think all really agree that it's great. Once again, I wouldn't classify this one necessarily as scary. It does have some good moments, but it's really just, I think you should watch this one at least once, and I recommend this one highly. Yes, The Changeling, check that one out. If you're a James Gunn fan, you know about this one, and that is Slither. This is the Scream Factory edition of it on Blu Ray. I am a James Gunn fan. I can't think of a single film that I don't like from the director. And of course, one of his earliest works here, it's a great creature feature. It's got a pretty awesome cast. Michael Rooker, Elizabeth Banks, Nathan Fillion, just really awesome. Some usual, James Gunn staples that appear in his later films all come together in this one. This one's great. This is such a B movie, but it's done in a A movie kind of way. It's a lot of fun. Some great practical and not so practical effects, and it's really just it's typical James Gunn. It has that beat to it. So if you're a fan of the director, absolutely check out Slither. This one, now a lot of people know of the American version of these movies, and that is The Ring. So, you have the original Ring, which I argue is a really good American remake. But if you want to go back to the original Japanese series, Ringu, and of course it includes Ringu 2 and, Ringu O and Spiral, the Arrow Video version of this is fantastic. It has all the atmosphere. It's got a great, just creepy vibe to it, and they're really compelling too. They have a lot to going for it as far as horror and thriller aspects. I love supernatural stuff, and this really has it in spades. It's a lot of fun. It's a good once again, if you go back to the Japanese original version, there's a lot here to enjoy, and like I said, the American version's great. I really like it, but if you want to go old school and see where it all began, check out Ringu, at least the first one. Go to the first one. They sell that one individually, and if you like it, give the box set or the others a try. I would recommend it. This next one is from Fulci. If you're a fan of the director, you know his style, his look, and The House by the Cemetery from Fulci. This is good slasher, creepy vibe kind of film, and the 4K edition of this one is fantastic. It looks really great. But yeah, the movie itself, you know, it's good old school slasher type of film. There's a lot going on inside of it. It's just, it's wonderful. It's also one that I go back to maybe every couple of years. And while I wouldn't say it's one of Fulci's strongest, for this particular month, I do recommend it. And it has some good stuff going on for it. If you want some good, you know, Fulci, with some horror and slasher type vibes, this one, and stay out of the basement. So just, you know, it's just a great flick. And yeah, I would recommend this one highly. Once upon a time, director Guillermo del Toro had designs to create his own The Haunted Mansion film for Disney. You know, if you're a fan of the director, you know what a Haunted Mansion movie from him would just absolutely just blow you away. For whatever reasons, it never came to fruition, and, you know, it's kind of a what if. But the director decided to kind of run with it anyway in an unofficial way, and now we have Crimson Peak, which a lot of people don't know. It's pretty much his Haunted Mansion movie. It really is. This one, it stars Tom Hiddleston, and I absolutely love this. This is not what I would call a full-on haunted house story, but it's, you know, it's a drama with the haunted house as the backdrop, and it has some great Del Toro, you know, vibes to it. This one is all, you know, the director really put a lot of love into this flick, and I also feel it's one of his most underrated movies. Great visual style, story. There are ghosts, but there's some great drama in the film, and the cast is also awesome. I mentioned Hiddleston, but, you know, his co-stars all are really great in this one. I love this one a lot. I would absolutely love a 4K edition of it, but I like to go back to this one at least once a year. And Crimson Peak, it's just really great Del Toro, basically making his Haunted Mansion movie without Disney's approval, but I love it, and yes, please check this one out. It's just great. This one is from another great horror director. He directed Doctor Strange, but before that, Sinister. On you know, as far as a good horror film goes, it's pretty scary. You know, it takes a lot to actually scare me, you know, especially when you're in your own home theater. You're kind of like in your own safe space, but, you know, if the lights are out and the surround sound's turned on, this one definitely rocks me like every time. Some great visuals to it. And Ethan Hawke also, you know, he's reteaming with the director in a new project, which I'm very excited about. But those two started out with Sinister. Yes, check this one out. It's really, I know a lot of people compare it to like The Conjuring and, you know, Insidious. And, well, you know, there's some similarities, obviously, but for this, I think it really stands on its own. It really earns that whole scary movie type vibe. And it's so good. It is really good. I'm going to actually be revisiting this one in a few days. But, yeah, Sinister, check this one out. The next couple, you know, when it comes to Criterion Collection, there's a lot of, you know, misconceptions or preconceived notions that it's kind of like too art house, or they don't really get into certain genres very well. But I stand by my statement when I say that they do some great old school horror and thriller stuff. And of course, there's a lot of Japanese, you know, films that, you know, Criterion handles that otherwise wouldn't see a release here in the States, but they're so great. They're really good. There's one that just came out a few weeks ago I'm going to talk about in a minute, but let's start off with House. This movie's crazy. This movie is crazy. It's a haunted house, but the craziness of this is just off the wall. I really can't, I don't want to say too much about it, because I feel like it would do it a very disservice if I really just kind of try to break it down for you. But if you want a great Japanese atmospheric horror film with some craziness to it, House, I highly recommend this one. I just watched this one the other day, and, you know, it's one I go back to a couple of years. It's so fun. It is fun. It's great. And some visuals are just, what can I say? Visuals are just gonna melt your brain. But yeah, check out House. This one just came out a couple, about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Blu Ray from Criterion. And, you know, I wouldn't call it a straight up horror film. It's a thriller. It's called Onibaba, and it's about a woman and her mother-in-law that are like living out in feudal Japan during wartime, and they're kind of like struggling. So what happens is when there's some roaming samurai or warriors that stumble onto where they live, they kill the guy, take his stuff and sell it, and that's how they live. Like that's how they live. But you know, stuff starts to happen when the woman's husband's friend comes, you know, returns from war. He deserted his post, and you know, some stuff happens there, and the mother-in-law is really kind of not having any of it. But there's some great visuals in this one. It has a great. There's some creepy. There's a pit. I'll just leave it at that. There's a pit, and there's some good. Just I would say. I don't want to spoil it. I really don't want to spoil it. But yeah, Onibaba, awesome. Check this one out. It's just released from the Criterion. This one also is based off, of course, the story, and most recently from The Haunting of Bly Manor, that appeared on Netflix, which was an excellent series from the director. But the original film that it's based on is The Innocents, from the Criterion Collection. It is great. This one has a lot of atmosphere. It's a house with, you know, some supernatural-ish stuff happening. 2 children that are acting a little crazy, and you know, their nanny that's just trying to make sense of it all. Now, I will say The Haunting of Bly Manor expands upon the premise of this movie a bit, like a lot more. And I think it's richer for it. If you check out that series, that's a side recommendation. Check out the series on Netflix. But if you want to see the original, like how it was, you know, how it originally kind of was inspired by, this one's awesome. I think it has some wonderful visuals. It's in black and white, but it's so good. It's really an excellent, you know, just ghost story, and, you know, or, you know, supernatural stuff that, you know, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. I recommend this one highly. And finally, from the Criterion Collection and from my recommendations is Carnival of Souls. Now, this one is it's good. It's at the time, apparently it was, you know, kind of like a B movie, and I see some of that. I do see some of it, and I think it adds to its charm. But it has some great visuals, and apparently George Romero took a lot of the scenes, like I don't want to spoil exactly when, and used it as inspiration for Night of the Living Dead. And it definitely shows. When I heard about that and I saw the scenes in question, I was like, yeah, definitely. He lifted it from that. But this is very good. It's a supernatural story. A woman, you know, survives a accident at the beginning of the film, and she starts having, you know, visions and hallucinations and stuff that's happening to her all around. But yeah, this one is good. It has some good stuff to it, and I enjoy this one a lot. It's one I do go back to a few times. And you know what? It's old school. It's got a great thriller, supernatural aspect to it, and characters are kind of cool in this one. You know, there's some good characters. But yeah, I would check this one out. Carnival of Souls, highly recommend it. So those are my movie recommendations for October 2021. And I think there's a lot to really enjoy as far as Halloween time goes. And go out, my recommendation is these will go a lot of outside of your comfort zone, and I think you should definitely check some of these out. Okay, in the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.